It was about 4 in the morning one Saturday. Dead quiet on the interstate except for the hum of my tires. And I was already running late for work, so I was pushing 75, maybe 80, when a pair of headlights in my left mirror grew so fast, it almost made me swerve. Whoever it was had to be doing 90, maybe more, because within seconds they were beside me. A gray Honda Accord coupe. I glanced over out of instinct. And even in the darkness, I could see the driver's face turn toward me, watching me as he passed. His stare stuck in my head for a second. But then I noticed something behind him, movement in the back seat. A young woman was there, her hands pounding on the glass, her mouth opening like she was screaming, but I couldn't hear anything through the rush of air and engine noise. My brain didn't catch up right away. I thought maybe it was some drunk friends messing around. But then the driver's arm shot back, shoving her down hard, and the car swerved at the same time. That's when it clicked. Something was wrong. I sped up, my hands gripping the wheels so tight they hurt, and got behind them. His car rocked as he kept one hand on the wheel and the other, reaching into the back with sharp, swinging motions. I could see her arms flailing, trying to block him. My heart was slamming against my ribs. This wasn't just an argument. This was someone in trouble. I hit 95 to keep up and yanked my phone from the cup holder, dialing 911 with my thumb without taking my eyes off the car. I started giving the dispatcher our location when his brake lights lit up bright, and he slowed, hard. I knew instantly he'd realized I'd seen too much. The space between us shrank fast, so I swerved into the next lane and shot past him, my eyes flicking to the mirror to watch if he followed. I didn't want to lose him completely, so I took the next exit just far enough to get off the main lanes, stopping halfway up the ramp. I sat there, engine humming, eyes locked on the highway until the gray Honda blasted past again. I jerked the wheel hard, cutting across the grass and back onto the asphalt, flooring it until the speedometer crept back over 90. The dispatcher was still in my ear, asking for updates, and I kept describing the car, the driver, our direction. The highway was a blur of white lines and cold darkness. When I caught sight of him again, he must have seen my headlights because his brake lights lit up, and this time he swerved into my lane to block me. I tried to pass on the left, he cut me off. Tried the right, blocked again. My pulse spiked, my foot hovering between gas and brake. And then his door flew open while the car was still rolling. He stepped out, something long and dark in his hand, and started sprinting toward me. My brain screamed move, and I slammed it into reverse, tires squealing as I backed up until he slowed and stopped chasing. The second he hesitated, I threw it into drive and roared past before he could get back in. The dispatcher's voice cut through my panic, telling me there was a state trooper ahead, to keep going no matter what. I glued my eyes to the road, my knuckles bone white on the wheel, and then I saw it, flashes of blue and red breaking the darkness. Relief hit so hard my vision almost blurred. The trooper slid in behind him, boxing him in between us, and the Honda swerved to the grass. I stopped 2 car lengths ahead, my engine idling like a heartbeat I couldn't calm. I watched the trooper step out, gun drawn, shouting commands. The driver went to the ground, hands behind his head. Another cruiser pulled up and a second officer yanked the rear door open. The woman stumbled out, crying, bruises darkening her face, her voice shaking as she clung to the cop's arm. I could hear her thanking me, over and over, like she couldn't stop. The cops told me later he was her ex-boyfriend, that he'd shown up at her house in the middle of the night, forced her into the car, and locked the child locks. They didn't know yet where he was taking her. I keep thinking about that, how much worse it could have been if I hadn't been in that lane, at that speed, in that exact moment to see her pounding on the glass. It was close to 1 in the morning on Route 20, the kind of road that feels endless, like it could loop you forever through the dark. I was 10 hours into my drive from Chicago to Massachusetts for the Boston Marathon, fighting the steady pull of exhaustion. The sky was a dead black sheet, no moon, no stars, just the occasional orange glow of a far-off gas station that vanished as quickly as it appeared. The white lines on the pavement blurred under my headlights until they felt like they were sliding past faster than my brain could keep up. Then my mirror went white, headlights sudden and blinding, swelling so fast it was like they'd been dropped right behind me. The roar of an engine rolled up my spine, low and guttural. I gripped the wheel and watched as the vehicle slid left, pulling into the next lane, but instead of blasting past, it crept forward, holding even with me. I turned my head just enough to see the hulking shape of a black pickup, old and scarred, the paint dulled and uneven, rust creeping up around the wheel wells. It lingered there for seconds that felt like minutes, pacing me perfectly. Then, without warning, it surged ahead, cutting sharply into my lane so close I could count the scratches on the tailgate. I tapped the brakes, heart hammering, then swerved left to pass, but the truck slid left too, blocking me. I tried the right lane, same move. It was like it could read my thoughts. Then the hazards came on, blinking in the foggy darkness, and an arm came out of the driver's window, waving me toward the shoulder. I shook my head, but the truck drifted closer, edging me toward the guardrail. I glanced at the dark trees rushing past, the long drop beyond them, and my skin crawled. My pulse pounded so hard it hurt. I waited for a break and punched the gas, swinging into the left lane, the engine straining as I pushed past 90. In the mirror, the truck stayed with me, its high beams cutting through me like heat. It didn't feel like a chase anymore. It felt like they were playing with me. I took the next exit ramp hard, tires screaming against the curve, praying they'd keep going straight. They didn't. At the bottom of the ramp, a red light painted the interior of my car in blood-colored glow. My breathing slowed just enough for the thought to cross my mind. Maybe I lost them. Then the rumble returned. The twin beams swept across my rear view, growing brighter until the pickup rolled up beside me. The passenger window slid down slow. Inside, 3 figures sat shoulder to shoulder, motionless, each wearing a stark, white vendetta mask. The streetlight above caught the smooth plastic faces, making the black eyes look bottomless. None of them moved. None of them spoke. Just that tilted head, like they were memorizing my face, measuring me for something. The light stayed red, but I didn't wait. I floored it, blowing through the intersection. The truck didn't follow immediately. It stayed at the light, idling, watching. But a few miles later, in my mirror, I caught it again, way back. Headlights dimmed, pacing me at a distance. I tried weaving through the sparse traffic, but every time I checked the mirror, it was still there. I took another random exit, winding through small-town streets, past shuttered shops and darkened houses. The pickup followed. No honking, no sudden moves, just that steady presence, turning when I turned, slowing when I slowed. At one point, I stopped at a 4-way stop. They stopped too, dead still, until I pulled forward. Finally, I spotted a 24-hour gas station glowing like an oasis. I pulled in, sliding up to the pump, pretending to be calm as I reached for the handle. The truck passed by slow, the masks turned toward me in perfect unison, and then it vanished into the dark. I stayed at that gas station for 20 minutes before getting back on the road. But the rest of the drive, every set of headlights in the distance looked like them, and I couldn't shake the thought that maybe they weren't gone. Maybe they just let me go. It was a Tuesday night in March, and the fog was so thick it felt alive, swallowing the road, curling around the hood of my car, drifting in slow, heavy sheets across the headlights. I couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead, just a wall of glowing white that made every shadow feel like it was leaning closer. The road was empty, not a single tail light, not a single oncoming beam. The quiet was so complete that I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Then it appeared, like it had been waiting for me. A black sedan, half in my lane, half on the shoulder, no lights, no hazard blink. I hit the brakes hard enough to feel the seatbelt bite my chest, swerving just in time to avoid smashing into it. My heart slammed once, twice, then wouldn't slow down. I eased to the shoulder 100 feet ahead, my breath shallow, the fog sliding over my windshield like a living thing. In the mirror, I saw the sedan creep fully onto the shoulder. The driver's window rolled down slow, and an arm came out, waving me back. My gut said, keep driving. But my head said, what if it's someone stranded, someone in trouble? I put the car in gear and inched forward. He pulled out ahead of me, leading me onto a side road swallowed completely in fog. I followed, headlights bouncing off the low-hanging branches overhead. Then he stopped dead. I stopped too, hands tightening on the wheel. The driver's door opened, and a tall man in a black winter jacket stepped out, his breath fogging in the cold, hands shoved deep in his pockets. He smiled as he came closer, too casual, like he already knew me. He leaned down to my open window and asked where I was heading. I told him home. He said the fog was too dangerous. that I should come to his house, just 5 minutes away, to wait it out. I shook my head. His smile didn't fade, but it changed, like he was waiting for me to blink first. He said I looked tired, said I should think about my family before getting back on the road. My stomach turned cold. Then, in the dim spill of my headlights, I saw it, a movement in his passenger seat, a shape sitting upright, watching. He reached for my door handle. Locked. Hey, car door slammed, and another man came out from the passenger side, this one holding a wooden bat. He ran at me full speed, boots thudding against wet pavement. I slammed it into reverse, headlights locking on his face as he got close, mouth open, eyes locked on me. Then I swerved, tires spitting gravel, fishtailing back toward the highway. By the time I hit the main road, my chest felt tight, but I kept my foot down, scanning the mirrors until the side road was gone. I thought I was in the clear. I thought it was over. 5 minutes later, the fog thinned just enough to see flashing red SOS lights ahead on the shoulder. A man stood there waving his arms, his shape shivering in the cold. I slowed. He looked desperate, and after what I'd just seen, I told myself there was no way this could happen twice in the same night. I pulled over. He jogged up, breathing hard, saying his battery had died, asking if I had jumper cables. I didn't. He asked for my phone to call someone. His voice was polite, almost urgent enough to override my hesitation. I handed it to him unlocked. He walked toward his car while dialing, slow, too slow. The driver's door was hanging open. Something about it felt wrong, like an invitation. I stepped toward it. My fingers brushed the cold metal of the door frame, and then I slid into the seat, turning the key. The engine started instantly. Battery fine. That's when I felt it. An arm looped tight around my neck from the back seat, cutting off my air. I clawed at it, twisting, bucking hard until the grip broke. I spun to see a teenager in the back seat, his face pale and wide-eyed in the dim light. The man with my phone was already sprinting toward me, yelling something I couldn't make out over the roar of my blood in my ears. I bolted back to my car, slammed the door, and floored it. A crack split the air, my rear windshield, shattered in a burst of glass and freezing wind. I kept going, didn't even look back, driving blind through the fog until the lights of my house finally came into view. My phone was gone. Hours later, my bank app wouldn't open. By morning, my crypto wallet was drained, thousands sent to an untraceable address. The phone's location went dead within the hour. A week later, my parents said they heard someone in the backyard before dawn. Footsteps in the wet grass. Then nothing. Just silence. I never saw anyone. But now I know, sometimes you don't run into trouble by accident. Sometimes it's waiting for you. It was past midnight when I pulled into a rest stop off I-90. The kind of place that barely looks alive. One buzzing light over cracked pavement. Vending machines glowing like they're the only heat for miles. And a single trash can overflowing in the corner. I kept the engine running. I wasn't planning to stay, just needed a second to stretch my fingers off the wheel. But the moment I stopped, I saw it. 2 rows over. A black sedan, engine idling. Headlights off, nose pointed straight at me. The same body style I'd seen before, weeks back, when a man with a bat stepped out of the fog like he'd been waiting all night for me. I told myself it wasn't the same car, that it couldn't be. But when the driver's door opened, I froze. He stepped out, tall, heavy coat zipped to the throat, hands deep in the pockets, head slightly lowered like he didn't need to see me to know exactly where I was. He didn't look around, didn't stretch, didn't check his phone. He just walked toward me, slow, certain, like each step was already decided before I even pulled in. I slid my key into the ignition, but before I could turn it, headlights flared in my side mirror. Another vehicle rolled in from the opposite side, a black pickup. Older model, scarred paint, rust eating at the wheel wells. My stomach nodded. I'd seen it before too, on Route 20, boxing me in at 90 miles an hour. It idled there, angled toward the sedan. For a few seconds, nothing moved. Then the 2 drivers glanced at each other, just a flick of the head, and both engines cut at the exact same time. The sudden silence pressed in like the air was pulled out of the place. I could hear the tick of my own cooling engine. I shifted into gear, but then the third one arrived. A gray minivan, crawling into the lot with its hazards flashing in the darkness. Moving slow like it was searching for a particular spot. It eased in right behind me, close enough to block me in. The side door slid open. My chest locked up. Inside, 3 figures, crammed shoulder to shoulder, each one wearing a white vendetta mask. Their faces turned toward me in perfect unison. No one moved. No one spoke. The masks were still, but I swear I could feel their eyes crawling over me. My hand shook so hard I almost missed the shifter. I slammed it into reverse and hit the gas, ramming the van hard enough to make the door slam shut and the masks disappear. Then I shot forward, scraping the sedan's mirror clean off as I threaded between the 2 vehicles, my tires screaming against the pavement. In the mirror, they didn't follow. They just sat there in the cold under the buzzing light, like they weren't chasing because they didn't need to. I drove until my tank was nearly dry, pulled into a gas station 2 towns over, hands still shaking as I reached for the pump. The screen flickered once, then froze. I went inside to pay, and the cashier didn't even look up when he said, "You're all set. Your friend's already paid for you." I didn't ask who. I didn't ask when. I just got back in my car and drove, headlights sweeping over the empty road ahead. But every time I checked my mirrors, I saw them. Sometimes the sedan, sometimes the pickup, sometimes just a flash of white in the back of a van. And I realized it wasn't random. It never was. It was just after midnight when I rolled into a rest stop off I-90. The kind of place that feels like it's been forgotten. Cracked pavement, slick from an earlier drizzle, a single buzzing fluorescent over the vending machines. Trash cans half collapsed against the curb. I kept the engine idling. I wasn't getting out. I'd been on edge all night, seeing shadows of vehicles in my rear view, catching glimpses of headlights that didn't belong, telling myself I was just tired. But then I saw it. 2 rows over. A black sedan sat facing me, headlights off, engine running. I couldn't see the driver, just the faint orange glow of a cigarette burning behind the glass. My chest tightened. It was the same body style I'd seen weeks earlier, on a fog-heavy back road, when a man stepped out swinging a bat like he'd been waiting for me. I told myself it wasn't the same car. It couldn't be, but when the driver's door opened, I stopped breathing. He stepped out, tall, heavy coat zipped to the chin, hands buried deep in the pockets, head lowered just enough to keep his face hidden. He didn't scan the lot, didn't stretch, didn't even glance at the vending machines. He just walked toward me, slow, steady, like he already knew exactly where I was parked and exactly what he was going to do when he got here. I slid the shifter into drive, ready to move. But before I could touch the gas, light flared in my side mirror. Another vehicle rolled in from the far side of the lot, a black pickup. Old, scarred, rust climbing up the wheel wells like rot. My heart dropped. I knew that truck. I'd seen it on Route 20, pushing me toward the guardrail, keeping pace no matter what lane I took. It idled there, angled toward the sedan. For a long moment, neither driver moved. Then they exchanged a look, a small, sharp tilt of the head, and both engines went dead at the same second. The sudden silence was thick enough to feel in my teeth. I could hear my own pulse over the faint ticking of my cooling engine. I tightened my grip on the wheel, ready to bolt. That's when the third one came, a gray minivan, sliding into the lot so slow it barely looked like it was moving. Hazard lights blinking in the dark. It pulled right up behind me, close enough that my rear camera was nothing but blinding amber flashes. The side door slid open before it even stopped moving, and I saw them, 3 figures, crammed shoulder to shoulder inside, each wearing a white vendetta mask. Their heads turned toward me in perfect unison. No talking, no movement, just that empty, frozen gaze. I slammed the gear into reverse and hit the gas, ramming the van hard enough to rock it and make the masks disappear from view. Then I threw it into drive, swerving between the pickup and the sedan, my passenger mirror clipping metal so loud it rang in my ears. The wheel fought me as the tires screamed across the wet asphalt. When I checked the mirror, none of them were following. They just sat there under the cold buzz of the light. The sedan, the pickup, the van, all still, all waiting. I drove until the gauge was nearly on empty before I dared to stop for gas, pulling into a lonely station 2 towns over. My hands were still shaking when I reached for the pump. The screen flickered once, then froze. I went inside to pay, but before I could speak, the cashier looked up and said, "You're all set. Your friends already took care of it." I didn't ask who. I didn't ask how they knew I was coming. I just left. And for the rest of the drive, every time headlights bloomed in my mirror, I felt it. Like it didn't matter where I went or how far I drove. They weren't chasing me anymore. They were guiding me.